I have to tell you a funny story about holiday stress. So many of us are pulled in so many different directions and doing 1,000 things at this time of the year. And it's hilarious because I myself was doing 1,000 things today, and I'm currently sitting in a Starbucks enjoying my cup of green tea and trying to take a moment to settle in and honor myself and my body. And so I'm trying to implement all of the things that we're about to talk about right this second. So it's just, no matter how you are doing in recovery or how, stressful or non-stressful your life might be, we all have challenging days. And so it's important to try to prepare and to have some skills or some tools in our tool belt, so to speak, that we can rely on for when things do get challenging and stressful. And one of the things too that I think we should just all acknowledge is that the expectations around the holidays are just so high for joy and excitement and family and fun and all these things, which it can be, it absolutely can be. But sometimes those expectations make us feel like we should be enjoying ourselves more than we actually are. And so that kind of can compound the stress and anxiety in some kind of strange way. So first of all, it's really healthy to acknowledge that the holidays are just like every other time. It's just every other day. There's some days that are going to be great and some days that are going to be not so great. So let's just remind ourselves of that first and foremost. One thing that I've talked about in several of my Eating Disorder Hope blogs, and is something that I continue to try to emphasize in my own life, is good preparation. Because if we're constantly reacting to things in our lives rather than actually preparing for challenging times or stressful situations, then we're never going to cope as well as we can. And we're never going to be able to honor our healthy selves as much as we can, right? So preparing means looking at the holiday season, right? We're at December 13th? So we're almost halfway through the month. We've got a couple more weeks to go. So say, all right, let's step back and take an analysis. How have I dealt with the holidays in the past? How have I dealt with them healthfully? And how have I dealt with them not so healthfully? And what has helped me to come back to myself and to come back to my core and my center and help me to deal with the stress and anxiety in a healthy way? So first, let's step back and take stock, take an analysis, right? For me personally, in my life, one of the most important things is then to say no to certain events and parties. Because if I cram my schedule too full of Christmas parties or holiday parties or get-togethers or whatever, I get super, super stressed and I don't actually enjoy them. For example, this week in New York City, there was a couple days during the week where I had multiple holiday parties that I was going to try to get to. But I just had so many other things earlier on in the day that I just said, I'm only going to go to one. I'm not going to go to both. I know that sounds like a super small thing, but it was so incredibly helpful because I wasn't out that late. I got a good night's rest and I felt prepared to handle the next day. So that was what it was for me. That's one of the things it is for me. Another thing, and especially in regard to food, I think that there's an expectation or pressure that we put on ourselves, especially if we're in recovery, to perform our recovery for other people during the holidays, especially showing people like, oh, see, I can eat cake and this cookie and this other bad food, that we have to show that everybody that we can eat all those things, right? And that's just not honoring to ourselves. Like, yes, it's important to enjoy yourself, but just like every other time or season of the year, you're not maybe going to feel like eating cake or dessert every single day, right? Some days you might feel like you want it and some days you might not. So if you don't, then don't feel like you have to perform your recovery for other people, right? So these are some of the kinds of ways you could say, all right, these are situations that I know are going to come up. Too stressed and too many commitments, or feeling like I have to perform my recovery or eat every single dessert that's put in front of me, right? How do I put strategies into place and prepare for those things which I know are going to happen? So for me, it's learning to say no. It's also especially in regard to the food situation, removing myself from the situation and finding someone to have a good conversation with if there's too much pressure and stress around the food. The holidays are a really, really wonderful time to focus on relationships. And I think it's one thing that we kind of forget about because we get so used to trying to make small talk with people. and just talk about what's your life update and what's next for you and when are you going to get married or when are you going to have kids and all of these kinds of conversations. But try to get into things deeper with people. That usually can be a good way to get our brain out of focusing on food or what other people are thinking about your recovery and onto something that's actually pretty meaningful. So that's the first thing, is to prepare for the situations. The second thing is, all right, holiday time is a really good, really good time to make sure your treatment team and your accountability partners are in place. So think about who are people in your treatment team that you feel like you can call or have on speed dial. Talk to them ahead of time. Say, if there's a challenging situation, can I talk with you? Can I call you? Or accountability partners are people that know you really well in your recovery. Say, hey, if I get stressed, I just need someone to talk to for 5 minutes. Like, can I call you? Put those people in place and then actually call them. I actually, in the last 6 months of my life, I've been dealing with just a lot of really crazy life stuff that is a little bit out of my control. And I've really learned the value of relying on my good girlfriends. And I've had to force myself to call them, even for just like 5 or 10 minutes when I'm walking to or from work or to the subway, and I only have a little bit of time, but I take the time to call someone, and it is truly unbelievable how much that helps. So put those people in place, and then if you do get stressed, actually call them. Another tip for coping with stress and anxiety during the holidays, and obviously every person's different. Some people are more introverted, some are more extroverted, but I find that making one-on-one dates with people can be really helpful to smooth out this very high emotional stimulation that happens during the holidays with lots of people around. And so if I can schedule a couple like coffee dates or tea dates with people that I really care about, and where I can just have really good one-on-one conversation, it really helps to center and ground me, people that know me. So book a couple like coffee or tea dates, so to speak, throughout the holiday season with people that really care about you. That can be extremely helpful. And then the last thing, this is just kind of something that I try to do every year, and that is after the holidays, right? So the week after, you think of January, the first week of January, there's a huge come down, right? So we just had Christmas and New Year's, and you've seen all your family, and then it's like, oh, I have to go back to life. And we're starting a new year, and everyone around me is making New Year's resolutions and hating on their bodies and going on diets and all of these things. Plan something fun for yourself after New Year's Day. It could be anything. It could be a one-day break, maybe take a personal day off from work, maybe plan a fun outing with a friend. Give yourself something to look forward to after New Year's Day, so that it doesn't just all come crashing down after January 1st, because that can be a really challenging time. Try to find something that you know is going to bring your heart joy, that is going to make you come alive after the holiday, so that you have that to look forward to. And that often helps bring down the stress and anxiety level to a more manageable level. So preparation, putting your accountability team and treatment team in place, and then give yourself something to look forward to after the holiday, because life and happiness and joy doesn't end on January 1st. So those are some things that have been really exceptionally helpful to me. And I would love to hear your thoughts and questions, things that have been helpful to you. And maybe we can discuss those things a little bit more. That's my little soapbox speech.
It's a good soapbox too. Very helpful.
And I'm going to have my sip of green tea. It's also a healthy coping mechanism for me.
So we have lots of questions, and one is how to deal with caustic or difficult people during gatherings.
Yeah. First of all, the important thing is if there are going to be people there at an event that you're going to who are so toxic that you can't take care of yourself well, it's okay not to go. First of all, you give yourself total permission. Sometimes, especially if there's trauma involved, you're just not ready to face some people. You might not be, and that's okay. So you might disappoint people. Again, that's okay. this is about you. You are the only person who's going to be there to take care of yourself. So if there's a toxic situation and you don't feel like you are going to be able to handle it, then you don't have to go. So that's number one. Number two, if there is someone there that you do know is going to be there, that you trust and that you love and can support you, say, hey, I'm worried about interacting with this person. So if you see me in a situation, if I give you a look or something like that, can you come over and save me? I've had that happen and put people in place to do that with me many times. Also, when you are in, or if you have to be in conversation with that person, one of the things that we talk about, especially in therapy, is to think about what we're thinking about, right? To be aware of our thoughts. So practice before you go, just monitoring your self-talk, and make sure that you're present in situations with those people. And if your self-talk starts to get very negative, or you feel your blood starting to boil a little bit, or if you feel those feelings of anxiety coming up in your gut, pause, take a step back and say, no, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. It can sometimes be as simple as that. If you feel like you have more confidence and you can say, you know what, I actually need to move on. This isn't a really healthy conversation for me. If you feel comfortable enough saying that, say that. But sometimes we don't. So say, you know what, just, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. You know what, I left my phone over there on the other side of the room. I need to go grab it. Whatever excuse you need to give yourself to get out of the situation, do it. You deserve it. It's fine. So don't go if you feel like you can't. Have someone else there to be able to pull you out of the situation if you need to. And 3, monitor your self-talk. And if you feel like it's getting to be too stressful, make up an excuse to get out of the situation. I know it sounds silly, but honestly, it works. So I would say those would be some of my tips.
Excellent. And another question was how to manage the food. And this individual's dealing with intuitive eating, trying to manage her hunger and fullness, but with all the stimulation, she's asking for some tips.
Yeah, absolutely. Which it can be so hard because there is so much stimulation. And so you're like, how in the world do I get back into my mind? Excuse yourself and go find a quiet place and practice some mindfulness, because mindfulness obviously is a main core of intuitive eating. So go find a quiet spot. Maybe it's you have to go into the bathroom and shut the door, or go into the room where the coats are, and shut the door and find some peace and quiet. Maybe if you have to kind of like put your hands in a prayer position, if you have to close your eyes, if you have to sit down, and put your hands on your knees and take a few deep breaths and center yourself. Sometimes, obviously I'm a person of faith. I pray, but you have to find a quiet spot. That is what's most important, because sometimes it's very, very challenging to do that in the midst of lots of people and music and dogs and children and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So find a quiet spot. Really, 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 really important to practice those little bits of mindfulness. And then if you have to go back, obviously go back. Also, I would say, I've talked about preparation earlier too. Practice beforehand. Say, all right, I'm going to go into this situation, because sometimes, especially with intuitive eating, we can, as you practice over time, you get better at it, right? And as you get better at it, you start to be a little less mindful, because it starts to come more naturally. And that's a really, really good thing. But maybe it's important before the holidays and before some of these large gatherings to say, okay, I'm going to go back to being extra mindful about my hunger and fullness cues and about my intuitive eating. Even though I feel pretty solid, I'm going to go back to being extra mindful so that I can practice before going into that situation. So those would be the 2 main things, but really finding a quiet spot for yourself to re-engage with your mind is very, very important.
Excellent ideas. Thank you, Kirsten. One last question is, this gal has gained weight from her eating disorder recovery, which she's happy about, but she feels self-conscious now in seeing everyone at a healthier way. We all know about the healthy way. Can you give her some comfort?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you are amazing. You are beautiful. And you have earned every bit of your new beautiful self. And I often like to say, we use the word recovery, but it's actually not recovery, because you're not recovering to the person you were before. You're discovering a new person, right? So this new beautiful you that you are living in is a part of the new you. I think it's important for us to recognize that because we, as people who've struggled with eating disorder and have been through the process of therapy, we have a whole much more honestly enlightened way of viewing our bodies and other people's bodies than most people who haven't been through do. So I think we have to recognize first and foremost that other people are not going to be as enlightened as we are, which means they're going to say things which might be well-intentioned, but are super frustrating. Like that, oh, you look so good, you look so healthy, right? Oh, you've gained some weight, like that. Okay, so just we should expect that those comments are going to come. And you know what the thing is for the rest of your life, even outside of the holidays, even outside of people that knew you before you had an eating disorder and know you now, people are going to make comments about your body probably for the rest of your life, because that's what people do. It doesn't mean it's right, but they do. So there's no getting around it. So how do we deal with it? We expect it. We let it slide off the shoulders. Say, you know what, thank you, and move along. You are Teflon. Seriously, you have to let it bounce off. That is the easiest, that is the simplest way to put it, because you know what, you're not going to correct them. You're not going to enlighten them in one conversation. And they haven't been through all of the hard work that you have been through. So don't give what that other person says value, because you've done the work to know who you are and to value and cherish who you are. And you should be incredibly proud of it. And just because they don't understand that doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It's a problem with them. They don't understand. They don't understand how to talk about it. And they haven't been through that process of really loving and accepting themselves, maybe, and others as well. So it's important to just keep repeating the truth to yourself, that you are worthy, that you are valued, that you are loved, you are beautiful, and you deserve the happiness that you have now and the body that you have now. Sometimes you have to just keep repeating it to yourself, even when other people say hurtful things. So, but bravo you. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I just want to share one other little story, which I think is just really interesting and someone who's like very encouraging to me. So about 10 years ago now, when I was Miss America and I was starting to speak at a lot of conferences on my recovery journey and the work that I was doing as Miss America, I was speaking at a lot of eating disorder conferences. And I remember feeling like, obviously you're around hundreds of eating disorder clinicians, right? And I remember feeling so strong and solid in my own recovery, but at the same time worrying, like, oh gosh, they're going to be watching me eat. And just feeling like all of a sudden everything that I learned in recovery went out the window, because I was so afraid that they were they'd be looking at me. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm doing the right thing and eating the right thing and making sure that I show them that I'm good. And it was just all this stuff. And I remember Jenny Schaefer saying to me, who's a dear friend of mine and was always a role model and a mentor to me, talking with her about this, because she had been on the speaking circuit for years as well, as someone who was recovered, but also speaking a lot for eating disorder professionals. And she would say to me, like, Kirsten, you know yourself. You know your own recovery. You know what you need. It doesn't matter what they think. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. And to hear someone else say that, who was in that position, and give me kind of the permission to be like, yeah, I know myself. Why am I worrying? Why am I stressing? Was hugely impactful to me. And also helped me just not care what they thought about my body, whether they thought I was too thin or too heavy or just perfect. Whatever. I didn't care. I just stopped caring. Just stopped caring what they thought. Because that was the only way to be able to survive and continue to try to do the good work that I was doing. I just had to repeat to myself that I knew myself. I knew my recovery, and I knew what I needed to do for me. And you know what you need to do for you. You've earned it. You've worked hard. You've gotten there. Trust yourself. It's the most important thing I can say.
Yeah, very good. And so everything you're saying is just congruent with finding that internalized sense of self-worth and not being dependent on comments, and not even getting too high when they're great or when they're bad, making like a duck and letting them roll off our back, and finding that spiritual and emotional center within. It sounds like that's what you're advising.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be real, it's hard. It's not easy, right? And some days it's going to be better than others. Some days it's going to be easier than others to find that center, but that's just part of life. Um, but I would say also just do not be afraid to lean on people in your life that love you and accept you, because everyone has at least one. Sometimes we don't have an army of people loving and supporting us. We wish we did. Sometimes we don't. But find that one who loves you and accepts you just the way you are, and don't be afraid to lean on that person as well when you're not strong. And of course, as someone who is a believer and a Christian also, I mean, I know that God loves me and cherishes me and knew me before I was born, and knit me together in my mother's womb, as it says in the Psalms. Like, I know that He loves me so intimately. And if the Creator of the universe believes that about me, then that's all I really need. That's all you really need. So don't forget to rely on Him as well.
Excellent tips and suggestions. Well, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, Kirsten, and to all our guests. It was really fun to talk with you again today.
Of course. Thanks so much, Jacqueline. Thanks for everything you guys do. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into these. And I wish you a wonderful, beautiful, blessed holiday season. Merry Christmas from my family to yours. And we'll see you after the holidays, too, for more of these, because life goes on after January 1st. Important thing to remember.
Take care, Kirsten. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.